If you can't spot the sucker at the table, you are the sucker at the table. If you can't spot the person who's there to help you in life, you are the problem.
Sometimes you just got to be slapped in the face and gone, you are the problem. You are the problem in your life.
It doesn't matter what your circumstances are in life. It sucks. That's human nature. Like, your life might be harder than someone else's, but guess what? Someone else's is harder than yours. And someone else recovered from where you were, and someone didn't recover from where you were.
Do you think people are addicted to being victims?
It is the natural state of humanity. We have to justify why we are the victim, and that's why we have to go out and blame everybody else, and that's why we have to go out and exaggerate problems. You can have reasons or results, and you can't have both.
How do we step in and maybe go, okay, that is the thing, this is my reaction, I need to intervene something in the middle so that I can separate the two and move past it quicker?
We create patterns, and once one of those patterns start, we can't just stop it. Where you need to work on it is the trigger. So I'll give you an example.
Nathan, welcome.
Frank, thanks for having me.
Tell us about yourself, man. What's going on?
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about myself. I'm trying to remember what we were originally going to go down, but so I've been a realtor for 16 years. I'm now in the AI entrepreneurial space. Recently released a book, Why Won't He Just Log Off? Because I love psychology, I love AI. But most importantly, I got passionate about this because if you would have met me 20 years ago, I was a very, very, very different person. I was kind of that person that was trapped, that everybody read about, blamed everybody and all the issues for my life. And so I just got passionate. And now I'm a guy who dreams big and just is very curious how far life will take me. So I guess that's the reason.
What changed with that? Because obviously people, I think everyone who does something or goes somewhere or creates that passion like you sound like you've got, it has started with that directionless victimhood mindset. I know I definitely did, and a lot of people I've spoken to certainly do too. What changed for you?
For me, I ended up getting a good mentor in my life. I'm trying to think about the best way to articulate it so it makes sense. I wish it was something big, yet it wasn't. I saw myself one way, and it wasn't how my results in life were acting. So I thought I was a good guy. I thought I was a servant leader. I thought I was smart. I thought I was all blah, blah, blah. I think, like, at the time I was 23 when I got married. So of course we're a little more cocky back then. And then we ended up moving in real estate. We took out my wife and I took out a big line of credit. We moved to a place we didn't know anybody. I started real estate. She went to find work. And she struggled finding work. I struggled in real estate because that cocky attitude, unfortunately, people don't want to work with it. And I sat down with my mentor one day. And again, keep in mind, I think all these high, big praise things about myself. I think I'm humble, and I think I'm so humble. I'll tell you how humble I am. I humbled the shit out of that life. Sorry for the language. I sat down with him one day, and I was just like, his name was Todd, and I was like, Todd, I think I'm done. I have to go get another job. I have to go pay rent. This adventure failed. I don't know how I can stay with my wife because, and I want to be very clear before I make this statement. She was easily my biggest support in all of life, but I blame so many people for my problems. I was like, Todd, it's her fault clearly that we're not succeeding. She hasn't gotten a job and blah, 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 blah. She's the smart one, everything else. And something interesting happened. I'd never really been validated in my life. My parents and I have a great relationship, but they weren't the validation type. They were the push type to make you better. And Todd said something interesting to me. He just said, Nathan, man, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. If that's what you need to do, I would support you in that. And that really took me off guard because I was expecting the push. I was expecting the fight, right?
Solution, try this, look at it like this, do that.
Or hey, you are the problem, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But then he asked a question. He goes, but you think you're a leader. Let me ask you, how are you leading your family by carrying this attitude? And I don't know if it was just a combination of life or whatever, but that one question just triggered almost an avalanche of things. Now, I wish I could tell you that I was 26 at the time. By the time I was 26 and a half, that it all fixed. And that was definitely not the case. I'm now 42. And I still struggle with a lot of that old set mentality. But it just started a way of learning. It started, first of all, understanding what I can control and can't control, understanding everything's my fault. And that sucks for a lot of people to accept in life because there's a lot of bad things that happen to people, especially bad things out of their control. But at the end of the day, in every single scenario, there was a role we all played in it. And so instead of trying to find the role that, say, you, Frank, played in it, Todd helped me find the role I played in it and take accountability for it. And that's kind of what started the adventure through it.
Something I talk to a lot of people about is taking ownership of potential downfalls that you've created, even if 99% of it was actually someone else's fault or it was something genuinely outside of your control. There is still 1% of something that you can control and potentially get some sort of either solace or action plan from, that can then send you into a new direction or give you a catalyst to do something differently. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we focus too much on the end result. So in real estate, I heard a phrase, I learned a phrase. I did not create the phrase, but I live by the phrase that we create the objections we get, right? So in real estate, it's sales. It's like, your commission's too high. I want to list with someone else. You're not doing blah, 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 blah. And this phrase comes in and says, we create the objections we get. And when we're sitting in front of the person, you can have the absolute most perfect presentation and still get an objection. And then you could easily turn around and say, I didn't create that objection. That's something that just existed in him. Yet there's a reality. There's something you didn't do in the prep. There's something that you didn't choose to master. There's something that came through in the conversation that person on a subconscious level is picking up. So on one hand, you're correct. You cannot control that person right in front of you. Yet you can control the actions you take to get to that person. Or if we were out door knocking for sales and we're like, well, I can't control, I used to hear this excuse all the time, I can't control if someone says yes or no at the door. And I'm like, you are absolutely correct, you can't. What I can guarantee you is there's someone out there who will say yes, and you can door knock until you find them. So that's the part that you have control over. And you can focus like I'll have a lot of these little one-liner phrases that I like. You can have reasons or results, and you can't have both. And so I like, and again, I want to be very empathetic because I'm not telling you that your reasons are wrong. The reasons can often be very, very, very good reasons of why you can't do something. And you should be okay with that as long as you're able to accept that you won't get the result. There's no way you have a reason and there's no way you have a result and there's no way both those things come together. Does that make sense?
It does.
Right?
It's the whole life has given you your hand of cards. You can't give them back and get new cards. You can't change your circumstance. You can't change your upbringing, your family, where you're from, everything. But you just got to play the hand that you've been dealt and play it to the best of your ability. And I think people get stuck in like you said, in the phase of, I wish I could change my hand for far too long, and probably rightly so. Like it's very easy to have that. Look at that person. They're from the same place, the same area as me, the same thing, the same school, yet their parents have more money so they can go and do things that I can't.
Sorry, my internet glitched there for a second.
No problem. No problem.
Back. What I missed the end part of that.
So it's very easy to see people around you that are maybe from the same area, same school, same upbringing, and go, oh, well, what they can do it because their parents have money and mine don't.
Yeah.
And it's just it can't. It's justified victimness, right? Like it can be, but how do you get out of that phase of, okay, this is what I've got, I got to do something with it?
Yeah, I don't know how you actually like that's actually a question I think about a lot. How, because if I could snap my fingers and guide people out of it, I would. And unfortunately, Todd didn't guide me out of it. He said a question that something snapped in my head and it made me see the world differently. Now, had he not asked that question, he played a role in it, yet he didn't have some sort of magical touch or he didn't know some sort of script. I want to go back to that victimhood thing. I was reading a study not too long ago where they took a series of people, a series of women, and put them into an interview scenario. And prior to going in an interview, they had really good makeup artists and they gave them all a scar via makeup on their face. Like it was a very predominant scar.
I can't
And
remember what it
then
was called.
yeah,
What's the study called?
I have
Can't
no
remember.
idea. I
Yeah.
read studies, I don't remember. But either way, yeah. So if you probably heard it, so for the people who may not have, so right before they go in the interview with this visible scar, they say, "Oh, the makeup artist says we need to touch it up," and then they actually remove the scar completely, but the person doesn't know, and they go in for the interview, and um, the vast majority of people came out saying the interview was something went wrong, it was negative, and they said the presenter or the interviewee or interviewer um, was focused on their scar, and that's why they didn't get the job, and blah blah blah. And meanwhile, they had no idea it was removed, right? Like victimhood mentality. It's I think the hard part is we want to feel justified in it. Like if I go back to my story, that's what Todd did. You know, Todd gave me permission to feel the way I did. And then he gave me a choice. And if you think about it, that's not something like maybe that's the answer. Like that's not something that happens very often. Usually you play a victim and then we get into a discussion like this and someone's like, well, Frank, let me fix you right up. Let me tell you how you are being a victim and what you need to change in your life. And that's what we get from I'd say 99% of the world. And that's not what Todd did. He was going to accept me regardless if I changed or not, which is not what I was expecting. And then he gave me a choice about how I could make it different. And that's different. That's a hard thing to do, you know? So
Have you seen the Rocky cutscene effect theory?
which one's that one?
So you've seen the Rocky films where he's like
Yeah.
he's down and out, he's this, he's that, and then something snaps in him and he goes, right, I'm gonna. Or is the classic movie like from fat to fit or from nothing to hero, and it's like a 3-minute montage of him doing sit-ups upside down, punching a meat bag, going on runs when it's raining, and 3 minutes of all this like motivational music, and boom, he's top of the world, right? And I think we're predisposed in some way, or maybe it's just from watching this type of stuff, to think it requires a burst of action, a sort of hard hitting 3-minute go all out, and then we'll have what we want at the end of it. But in reality, like you said at the very start, it wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't a quick fix. It wasn't an overnight 3-minute montage. It's a long, horrible, drawn out, uncertain process that you constantly question 24/7
Hmm.
without any feedback of the thing working.
Yeah, and I have no problem being raw on this because I really think when people share stories, it helps other people. So for no other reason than for people to understand that they may not be alone. You know, that was when I was 26. I'm now 42, and I was thinking about it when I was at the gym this morning. I'm coming up to 1 year of a major life change. So 1 year ago, October 21st, I weighed 240 pounds and I was so depressed. Like I have had 16 years as a successful realtor. I have taught on stages and I was just so damn depressed, man. I literally went to the doctor. I thought for 4 months I was going to have a heart attack every single night when I went to bed. It was like my heart was racing. And you know, it's going to sound weird. Obviously, with the things you see around, I'm a faith-based person. So for the longest time, death really didn't bother me because I'm like, I'm just going to die and go to heaven, right? But now I have a daughter, and the idea of leaving her alone would just eat me alive. So I finally went to the doctor and I said, so I told her what was going on. We ran through all the tests because I was physically getting chest pains, everything. My feet were messed up. And we went through all the tests, and nothing is wrong. I'm actually relatively healthy. I'm overweight, but I'm healthy. And she goes, I think you have an anxiety issue. And if you would have known me back then, it wouldn't have actually been much different. Like maybe my energy level would have been a little bit lower, but I was like, I'm not an anxious person. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I have anxiety. And she's like, no, she's like, we've had this conversation a few years ago. I think you need help. She goes, oh, we're going to put you on, basically it's Prozac. I can't remember the name of it, but we're going to call it Prozac. She's like, I'm going to put you on Prozac. It's going to take about 6 weeks to kick in. Right. And so at that time, it was about 6 weeks to my birthday. And I said, I'm giving it till my birthday. And then I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. I'm going to quit this business thing. I'm just going to. Well, since then, all of a sudden, that little bit of help, I cannot begin to tell tell you how much it changed my life. Like it was like, okay, well, if I'm going to take this Prozac, I don't want to be on it for the rest of my life, which I probably will because I never want to go back. But so I'm going to start hitting or start working out and starting my diet, right? So fast forward to December, I play a game called World of Warcraft, and what I found out, oh my goodness. Sorry, my internet's a disaster today. How much of that did that cut out?
I
Anything?
just heard you started like the Prozac was for the 6 weeks,
Okay.
and then
Yeah, sorry about that. I have no idea what the heck's going on. I'll have to fix this later. But so anyways, so I'm now like 8 weeks later, and I play a game called World of Warcraft, and they come up with this housing system. And again, at the time, like I write a book on gaming addiction because when you get depressed, when I get depressed, that's what I feed into. It was video games, right? And I was going through that moment. So I created this house on Warcraft, and I put it on YouTube. Now I want to back up. I've been a realtor for 15 years at this point. I've been all over social media. I started smoking meat a few years ago. Nobody comments on my social media about real estate. It's always about everything else that I do. So I put this house and I want to show it off to my friends. But because I'm a realtor, I do it properly. I make sure I get the cover. I make sure I get the music, blah, blah, because that's just what you do. It ended up skyrocketing and getting 17,000 views. And it was out of nowhere. And that was kind of like this little win. So now I have like this Prozac. I'm feeling better. I'm not feeling as anxious, and I get this one little win, and I snowballed that little win into another one. And then January hits, and I pick up this AI program, and I create something that was just so different. It was like the housing. It was like I like the way I built that house is now how I built a program. And we found out we had a business there, and that was another little win and another little win, and now it just kept building momentum. And so the reason why I'm sharing this story is kind of twofold. Is one, if somebody is trapped, don't be afraid to ask for help, man. I've been struggling with depression. I'm 42, and I never asked for help. I don't know why. Maybe it's just I'm a dude. Maybe I'm just like I can get over it. Ask for help, but know that if they give you a help, if they give you something like they gave me, that help alone doesn't do it. That help alone just helps create that project. You have to still mentally work on everything you have to work on. You have to mentally change your mindset. And just so since then, we've started a company. We launched our first product actually yesterday. Officially, we had our first international customers, which is fan-freaking-tastic. I now weigh 188. I actually sent my wife a photo. I have abs and muscles, and I'm not used to it. And I'm by no means saying it to brag. I'm just saying that all this was an accumulation of understanding change had to happen, and my outward reflection wasn't matching inward. So the people who are struggling know that I will go through another bout. I'm not perfect. This is not like my life is now complete. This is another step in that journey, and I will take a few steps back at some point, and at some point I'll get back to being depressed, and at some point life will get stressful, and then we just carry on. I don't know why I started that little rant and rave, but I really hope that anybody kind of stuck there just understands it's a journey. Enjoy it the best you can, right?
something I've found and noticed, and sort of what you're alluding to there as well, is that accepting the good and the bad is part of it, right? And without bad there is no good, and without good there is no bad. Everything is a comparison to something else. So if you are feeling shitty or bad or down or depressed or anxious or whatever phase of life you're in, that is a purpose built as a feature, not a bug, right? It's something that is meant to be there, because when you feel good, there would be no good if you didn't feel like that, right? There's no comparison to that. And sometimes it's like peaks and troughs in anything, whether it's business, finances, relationships, training, anything. Like there has to be good for there to be bad. There has to be bad for there to be good. And realizing that and accepting the situation you're in and the place you are right now. Obviously, with not just bending over and going, all right, cool, I'm in a shit phase, allow it to happen. Obviously, trying to learn from those shit phases and deal with them properly. But there will always be a slightly different shit phase. It'll be dressed slightly differently. It'll look slightly differently. It'll feel slightly different. You'll think it's this whole new beast, but you've dealt with it 100 times before, and you can deal with it another 100 times again.
Have you ever read Mark Manson's? I'm not going to drop the F-bomb on your show, but The Subtle Art.
You're more than welcome to. They are subtle art.
In the case, I will just if I'm more than welcome to. That's the name of the book. I'm not usually a big story, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that one?
I've not read it. I've seen snippets of it, and he does like a blog, doesn't he? And a lot of the
It,
things are around it. But yeah,
it's absolutely phenomenal, and I would highly recommend. And like, it was one of those life-changing books that I read, because exactly what you're talking about. He really nails down on values, like, you know, the bum in front of the liquor store has money problems. Elon Musk has money problems. They're just different kinds of problems. We get to choose the problems that we go through, and this was a big aha moment. But it's a really weird contradiction. So I'm gonna say one thing, but I'm gonna sound like I'm gonna contradict it. We get to choose the problems that we go through, but then we're also very limited, and it also helps understanding your choice. Like, one of my favorite phrases: "I'm nothing but the captain of the leaf flowing down the Amazon River." I own the leaf. It is my boat, but good luck if I have any control over where it goes down. So sometimes you just need to enjoy that ride. So we need to understand what we don't have control over, but we do have a limited amount of control. And we do have problems. We get to focus on what those problems are. The second part that made me think as you were talking was, what are those first steps? And this is actually hard. I don't know if I've even accomplished it after this many years, but if you can't accept where you are, you'll never accept where you'll be, right? So, like this is like one of those. Everybody says money changes people. I don't believe that. I believe if you're generous with a little money, you'll be generous with a lot of money. If you're sitting there saying, and this is just reality, if you're sitting there saying, "Well, I would give back to people, I would give back to charities more if I had more money," no, you wouldn't. This is actually who you are. Just suck it up and accept it, own it. That's it, right? Um, my wife and I'm very blessed. We went through financial hardships, and it actually solidified our relationship. It didn't drive us apart, because we did come to the conclusion that if we lost everything, we would still have each other and we'd be happy where we are, right? That's hard though, and I'm not telling. I hope people can get to it. I'm not trying to tell you that you have to get to it to find happiness, but I'll tell you, man, your life gets a lot better when you can accept where you are today. You'll flourish in ways, and life becomes an adventure.
do you think you have to see both extremes to have that perspective though? So when you're in the, if you've never seen it, so if you were born into a family with not much money and you didn't really see it going on around you, and then you're raised with always looking after the pennies and always watching what you buy and keeping on, like, just, do you know what I mean? Just the general conservative nature behind money. When you then get into older life and you see people around you that do have money that say things like that, like, money doesn't buy happiness, you can't, it's the time that matters, it's the this, it's the that. I know I was always like, yeah, but it would for me. It would for me. They don't know. It would for me. And until you go on the journey and start to see it and go, oh fuck, it wasn't. They're right. You know, it's like an unteachable lesson, something that you can't pass down to someone without having go and experience it themselves. It's like the whole, she's not the love of your life, she's just a pretty girl that gives you attention. Like, it is, is there a way of experiencing that or learning it beforehand, or do you just have to sort of go, you know what, I'm going to see for myself?
It depends, I think. First of all, it depends on your age, because when I was younger, I learned everything the hard way. I think number two, I used to think that I didn't go through enough hardships in life to be successful. As weird as that statement sounds, and that was just proven to be a lie because of exactly what you're talking about. The I think there's 2 points to it, and this is kind of the ending, or actually, we'll say about. So I say this with a pretty big Christian faith. I play a big role in my church, and ironically, Buddhism taught me this lesson. There's a story of Buddha, right? This young prince was born in a rich castle, had everything, right? Did not want for anything. And his life sucked. He realized it wasn't great. And he went down the streets one day. He snuck out of the palace and he went down the streets and he saw all these poor people having fun and having family. So he thought the meaning to life is to go be poor. So he gave up everything. He ran away from home and he went out and he found out being poor also really sucks, right? Being poor is just a horrible pile of crap. And all you do is strive for something else. And the point, first off, I want to get to is It doesn't matter what your circumstances are in life. It sucks. That's human nature. Like we, yeah, sure, your life might be harder than someone else's, but guess what? Someone else's is harder than yours. And someone else recovered from where you were, and someone didn't recover from where you were with having a better life. Like, if you're going to play this comparison game, you're never going to win. Life just sucks. It doesn't matter what your position is. What then made me realize, then, if that's the case, what's the answer? And I think the answer comes in what they would call in Taoism the uncarved block. So there's another great book called The Tao of Pooh, which is Taoism explained in Winnie the Pooh. It's a great book, and it talks about becoming the uncarved block. That's what Pooh Bear is. He is the uncarved block. So the example I often give is I shoot a lot of pool. My pool cue, humble bragging, cost me like $1,500. The shaft alone was $900. It's a very specialized, customized cue. There's only 80 of them made in the world. I won one part in a tournament. The tip on the cue when I get it replaced cost me over $100. And I show this. It's beautifully etched. Like it's a gorgeous pool cue. And I show people this, and I show them how nice it is. And it's nice. Even if you don't like pool, it looks like a good pool cue. And then in an example, I'll pull out a hunk of wood from my backyard, just a log, and I'll show them the ugliness of the log. Probably still has bugs in it and still has knots in it and all the rest. Now, I want to back up. I don't know if you know this. It actually takes 10 years for a good pool cue to be made. It dries for 10 years, the wood. It's a process. And then you ask, well, what would you rather be? And most people would be like, well, I want to be the pool cue, right? But the problem is the pool cue will always be a pool cue. The pool cue looks beautiful, it acts beautiful, it's a nice piece of machinery, but it'll never be a table, it'll never be a house, it'll always be a pool cue. Where that ugly hunk of wood, within it contains the possibility to be anything and everything, because it hasn't been carved into something yet. And this is what I love about, so that's the Buddhist and the Taoism side. If you go on the Christian side, this is what it means to be the potter and the clay. We are to be clay in the potter's hands. We're not a finished product. We also need to be very open to that molding. And so when I often talk about coming from life from curiosity and coming from life from adventure, it is exactly that. It is like, we remain open to be molded. We remain open to all possibilities around us. It sounds all trippy and stuff, and I don't mean it to be trippy. I'm not. I'm actually a very logical, scientific person. Yet I don't walk into any scenario. I do not walk into this podcast having this conversation thinking I have all the answers. Like, you will be able to provide value to me. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, wow, you know a lot about this topic and I don't know as much. I have no idea if that's the case, but I'm just saying. But that's not my position. I don't, and no offense, I don't care what someone else's position is, because I can learn from every step of life. I need to stay moldable, and that tampers expectations. So when now my value the next day isn't what I've earned or what I've done or the success I had or how I beat somebody or how I compared, my value tomorrow is just being a little bit better than I am today and doing something better for future Nathan. So 6 months from now, Nathan doesn't look back and be like, damn, that guy was an asshole for what he left me with. He left me with debt. He left me with calories. He left me fixing the scale. All because 6 months now from now, Nathan, he made it that I have to go to the gym more. That guy's an asshole. And this sounds weird. That's how I actually view life. Like, I actually look at my past self. He wasn't always great, and he didn't do things to set up. But my future self is someone I don't know yet. And I actually have this choice, this really weird choice to think about that. My future self, my tomorrow self, can either thank me or can hate me. And what would I rather have? So today, when I go, I think I only got 4 hours of sleep last night, hence why I have these big bags under my eyes. I normally look at least 10% more rested. But I still hit behind you. But yeah, I still hit the gym. Like, I'm on 4 hours of sleep. I still hit the gym because 2 weeks from now, Nathan, he's going to appreciate the willpower I built today. Versus 2 weeks from now, Nathan might be like, well, that guy was an asshole for sleeping in or going to take a nap instead. I still ate healthy this morning. Trust me, man, when you're tired, the last thing you want to do is eat healthy. I still ate healthy because future Nathan's going to love me for that. And I got tired of resenting past Nathan. Like this sounds weird. I got tired in my life of hating past Nathan. Eventually, I just had to forgive him. Eventually, I had to look at past Nathan as a completely different person and be like, you know what? That dude messed up a lot. And I did. I messed up a lot of things and I hurt a lot of people in my life. And I got to forgive him because he didn't know. He didn't know what today Nathan knows. He didn't understand what today Nathan understands. He only had the tools with him at the time. So I got to stop hating him and make sure future self doesn't hate me. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of trippy, but
I think it comes from little things. I think it comes from having trust in yourself that you will look after, like you said, the future version of you. I like the little things as well, tiny little things. Like I'm talking like emptying the dishwasher so that future you doesn't have to do it. Because when it comes to future you, and then you're busy and you got stuff to do and you got this call to attend and you got this to go, and you're in a rush, and then you go, fuck, the dishwasher's not empty, and then you're like, shit, I could have done that earlier. I had all the time, and you go, right, next time I'll empty the dishwasher when I've got time. Do you know what I mean? And then you start to pick up these tiny little habits over the course of the day that then it's not it. I've found anyway, it's not big swings in life that get you places. It's not big, huge decisions that alter the trajectory. It's the tiny little things that you stack up and you build trust in yourself that you will always do what you think is best with the information you have at the time. And that way, even if you fuck up and get something wrong, you can say exactly what you've just said and go, you know what? I forgive that version of myself because he did what he thought was best with the information he had at the time. But as long as you're doing it with the intention of progression and development, and even if it's a selfish mover, even if it's for the benefit of other people, whatever it is, if it's got a positive reason behind it, you cannot regret it.
mm-hmm.
You can wish you did different. You can wish to retrace steps and do something completely different, but you cannot regret it, because regret would assume that you did something intentionally wrong, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think first of all, we live with regret because even though we don't understand that we didn't intentionally do it, we think we should have known better. And what a silly thing to think, really, if you really break it down. The other thing I like what you're talking about too is intention. Like one of the things I picked up a life coach a few years ago, many years ago now, actually. And what she really challenged me with was having integrity with myself, keeping my word to myself, because it's very easy to let that slide. And something I began to see in these small things, like here's the reality. When you decide not to unload the dishwasher that you committed yourself to do, what you are saying, yes, I am no longer trustworthy. And you're saying I am out of integrity, and I am not the person. I can't even rely on me to unload a dishwasher. How can anybody else rely on me? And think about on a subconscious level how that psychologically messes you up, right? Now you're double guessing your work and you have no idea why. You're good at your job. Well, it's because you're out of integrity with yourself. Another interesting study they did, I had no idea the names of them. Google them. I'm sure they're out there. Every time I've Googled it and been challenged, we found it. But another one that had to do with self is there was an earthquake in South America. And they went and asked people what they experienced, right? And so they went to the source of the earthquake where homes fell, people lost everything, people were injured, some people died, everything. And they started interviewing folks. And they were like, Frank, you were at the center of this, man. What's going on with your life? And they were like, dude, we do not have time. We have to go find our loved ones. We have to go figure out where we're going to sleep tonight. And they picked up their stuff and they went and accomplished what they needed to accomplish, right? So then they went about 5 kilometers out where nobody was really in danger, but they really felt it. Like books fell and, like maybe their shelves moved. I don't know if you've never been in an earthquake. It's like the whole ground is on waves. It's a really trippy feeling. And they interviewed them and they said, well, what went wrong? And the stories that came out, Frank, you should have seen it, man. Like a book nearly fell on my head. This thing was coming down. My whole place was trashed. And it was like the world was horrible. And you think to yourself for a minute, you're like, how is it that the people that are so close to actually lives got affected, their world wasn't horrible, but the people far away, their world was, right? And what they concluded in the story is that when your internal self, when your internal view of self is not in alignment with your external view, one of two things have to happen. Either A, you accept it, or B, you lie about it and you convince yourself. So if the average person thinks they're brave, if I was like, well, what would you do in that scenario without ever being in that scenario? You'd be like, oh, well, there's no real harm. It'd probably freak me out, but I'd be okay. But then you get in that scenario and you feel real fear and terror. It brings you to the shock, and you're like, well, that's not how I thought I would react, because I really clearly wasn't in danger. So now I need to admit one of two things. Either I have to say, A, I'm not actually nearly as brave as I thought,
Mm-hmm.
or B, I have to tell you how horrible it was to justify that fear. And I truly think that this is actually the primary source of anxiety in the world, is too many times, going back to that victim mentality, we have to justify why we are the victim. And that's why we have to go out and blame everybody else. And that's why we have to go out and exaggerate problems. And again, I want to be very clear. Your problems are very valid. Your problems are 100% valid. And you have a choice. and the choice is, you can have those reasons or you can have results. And the way you get the results is you turn around and say, yeah, you know what? My friend, my ex might have cheated on me. Maybe I was actually the problem. Maybe I pushed into that. I can't control what my ex did, but I can control how I played in that role in it. And have your internal view of self start to match your external view. And if anybody takes this challenge on, I want to let you know, it sucks at the beginning. Like, it is hard. If you drink, man, I don't drink anymore. I've been sober now for 4 years. But if you drink or if you smoke pot, go get yourself a joint, go get yourself a bottle of rum, because it is going to be a hard task to be able to honestly do that. Yet, when you honestly do that, you can start being authentic and build on yourself. And you can start doing the things that you're talking about, Frank. You can start keeping your word to yourself of the small. You'll keep the word in your dishes, which means then you'll keep your word at work, which means then you keep your word with your partner. And then when your partner messes up, you can forgive them. But when they're acting like an asshole, you get to be like, you know what? This is a you problem. I'm not going to carry your feelings anymore. I'm accountable for myself, but I'm not accountable for your feelings anymore. So good luck. Call me when you're at it, when you figured it out, and I'll be more than happy to keep talking. And then you live stress-free. Well, less stress. I won't say stress-free, but.
Do you think people are addicted to being victims?
I don't know if addicted's the right term. I think it's our natural state. I know it sounds weird because people have broken out of it, but I think it is the natural state of humanity. So again, I have no idea where your faith lies, but just go down this rabbit hole with me for a minute. I promise not to get all preachy. But let's imagine for a minute that the story of Adam and Eve was real. Let's imagine for a minute that we talk about what sin really truly is. And you had this perfect relationship and you had no sin. And in my belief, the essence of sin is self-centeredness. Is the essence of sin is me before everything else. It's not about the bad things. It's not about the murder or the stealing. It's about self-centeredness, of focus on self. Where at one point we had focus on God, right? So then you're in the Garden of Eden, and man does what he normally does, is he lets his wife control him. So she eats the fruit. He's supposed to take a stand. He doesn't. He then eats the fruit. And then, of course, men do what they always do best, blame the woman, right? And by the way, my favorite joke in the world is, this is why women never can choose a place to eat, because the first time they did it, they damned all of humanity. Anyways, that's a joke for all the people out there. So anyways, let's just imagine for a minute now, that's why we have this God-shaped hole in our heart, right? And now we have to go out and fill it. Well, we're so self-centered that we can't imagine a world of not filling it, right? And so it can't be our fault. Like, just like going back to that Adam and Eve story in the garden, whether or not you want to believe it or not, doesn't matter. The ethics behind it are very true. The first thing Adam did was become a victim and blame someone else. He had to pass it on. I do truly believe, now in my case, it's God, it's Christianity, it's Christ, it's whatever. In your case, it might be something different, but I do believe morality is learned, not given. or not, sorry, it's given, not learned. I do believe morality is something that comes from a higher power. I do believe, and whatever you want to think that is, and I do believe this ability to be better than ourselves is a break in our nature. And I think that comes from God. You may think that comes from something else, but I do not think that is actually normal nature to to break away from this victimhood mentality. And on a biblical side, you can actually see psychologically, if you look at Christianity, how things were put into place to actually break us from that mentality, right? And I'm sure in other religions, whatever you choose to believe, if you look at Taoism, if you look like even Buddhism says that nature of peace, what the Buddha achieved, was not the natural state of man, right?
What are some things that validate that?
In what sense? Like,
Well, in your opinion, what are some things that tell us that morality is given, not learned?
so
In
yeah,
application in life and things that people can feel and see. Because when I asked about is it addictive, is it nature or nurture? I guess is what I'm saying. Like, is it
yeah.
something like you said we're born
And
with
I
and
would say it's nature.
we
Yeah,
have it's nature.
yeah. So I think the problem is with that question, and I don't want to go super dark, but unfortunately, when you start talking about morality, you can't talk about it on the little scales that we're talking about it now. Because if you believe morality is learned and not given, then that means it changes and it shifts. And then now we have to decide um, what 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 are the standards that we go by. So, for example, if I were to ask somebody, I won't put you on the spot. If I were to ask somebody, is slavery moral? They would say no, and I would agree with them. So then I ask them, why isn't it moral? And if they go down the argument of, well, it's a human life, well, then the next question is, what gives human life value? Right? And as you go down that rabbit hole, the reality is there's nothing in an evolutionary process that gives human life value. As a matter of fact, if we were to go strictly by morality and strictly by evolutionary processes, I think we'd be similar to monkeys. And what I mean by that is monkeys, quote unquote, have a sense of morality. If I want to be the king monkey of Monkey Town, it is a savage, brutal way for me to get to the top. I'm literally tearing other monkeys apart to get to the top. But once I'm at the top, I actually have to treat people good. Now, I'm not treating people good because of a sense of morality. I'm treating people good because I want to keep my power. That's a big difference, right? And so the question that comes in is, okay, so if you go down the value of life, we're on an evolutionary sense, is what actually gives people value? And then the problem is, well, nothing really gives people value. We do, like, it's just all in our head. That would be that next step, right? So then you go down another step and you go, well, is slavery legal? Well, no, because our laws say it's not legal. Well, one of the most fascinating things, this was one of the arguments that the Nazis used in World War II after the war was done. Everything the Nazis did were legal according to their laws. They never broke any laws. So why should they be held accountable? But there's something visceral that no matter where we stand, there are some things in life, whether it be slavery, whether it be genocide, whether it be rape, whether it be whatever, that we at our core just know is wrong, right? And at our core, we want to take a stand against. And the question that I don't think people face enough is why? Because if you just believe purely in science and in evolution, well, that's not the way nature works. As a matter of fact, if you look at nature, it works quite the opposite. Actually, as a matter of fact, showing grace, like real grace to people, is a detriment to the evolutionary process, not a help to the evolutionary process, right? So regardless of that part, so then the next question is, so that must mean then, if let's say that evolutionary part, I'm not saying evolution doesn't exist, but that part of morality doesn't exist. The question is, okay, that must mean then a truth exists outside of us that we learned it from, right? So the next natural question is, well, what truth is it then? So let's just assume for a minute that we can say, well, there's a truth out there, but now we're not even talking about Christianity, we're not talking about Buddhism. Heck, for all we know, it might have been aliens, it might be If you ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it might be the dolphins or the mice. Whatever. There's a lot of cool theories that go out to it. And so the next question is, what truth can we actually get behind, right? If it exists outside of us. And this is where a personal journey begins to happen if people choose to do it. For me, I've concluded that no other truth makes scientific sense, historical sense, and psychological sense like Christianity. That's why, to me, I'm not talking about a religious experience. I've not had one of those in my life. I did not. My wife had one, which was very interesting because I'm not a big believer in demon possession and all the rest. I don't think the devil made me do it. But I've met people who had a religious experience. It was nothing like that for me. I test my faith daily with science, and much like oh my goodness. Sorry, that internet thing. As I was saying, I test myself daily with science, and I do want to say that idea of being the uncarved block is something I approach my faith with as well. I give everybody permission to challenge my faith as if I might be wrong. And I'm okay with that, as long as it's respectful and you make sense. And if you come up with a plausible and logical argument, I will think about it and I will ponder it for a bit, right? But that's the only one in the end that made sense for me is as a source of truth, right? That's the only one that put all the blocks together. No other religion put the blocks together. No other theories put the blocks together. Evolution doesn't put the blocks together. But this idea behind a victimhood mentality, like this is so expressly done. But then why? Like here's a weird one, and I'm sure we could go in depth about it. But would you agree? The law tells us we need to change, but grace is only truly what changes our hearts. Like breaking of rules tell you that you need to change, you need to be different. But Todd didn't hold that law. I knew that myself. It was Todd's grace that started to change my heart. And when I accept other people fully, there's another guy named Daryl Davidson, I think his name is. It was this black dude who's caused more clan members to give up their hoods than any other person alive, really. Great story. And they ask him how he did it. And he goes, I did it because I did not go in to judge them. And I did not go in to tell them they were wrong. I went in to understand them. He went in with grace, not with law, and it changed people. So if that's the case, what explains that? Because that's a very bad evolutionary example. Look at Christians, man. They get crucified and martyred every day. It's a horrible way.
I think it's the polarizing nature that we possess. Like we have to, if we have an opinion, anything that isn't that opinion has to be wrong. And without seeing perspective on, I can't remember his name. George Mack. He's writing a book at the moment, and he's like the agency guy, high agency guy. But he's writing a book at the moment. One of the chapters is on how different cultures have norms that other cultures would see as completely wacky. So like even probably us two on this conversation here, we have probably cultures in England that are different in Canada that we might see as like completely out there weird, and you vice versa. But there's like extreme examples of like there's I can't remember the actual like where this is, but one of the things he was talking about was how in this certain culture, when a marriage happened, like the wedding, the marriage was deemed successful based on how many men the bride could sleep with in that one day. And that was their culture. That was their like celebration. That's how they celebrated it. And we look at that and go, what the fuck? That's weird. But to them, that's like, oh yeah, obviously that's normal. That's the expected. And I think this like polarizing thing of going, okay, if I have this opinion, or maybe it's a taught thing, maybe it's the media, maybe it's like loads of different things we could probably add relevance to, but it's this, I have this opinion, therefore that is wrong. And are you saying that, look, it's a good place to be if you can go, okay, this is my opinion, but I'm willing to accept other opinions or look into them and see where that comes from, or why it's that way, or how that can look relative to my life? Because at the end of the day, all we're looking for is a path that makes us feel better. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? Like something that
Well,
makes us go, okay, this is why I'm the way I am. This is how I see the world
yeah.
because of this.
See, I think in your context, and I'm only caveating this because in a different context I disagree, but in your context, to feel better, I would agree with. I think we search for answers. I don't think it necessarily is about being happy. I do want to go back and I think, yeah, when I talk about there being an external truth, I think people make that way too rigid and put way too much law into it. Like when I talk about external truth, I don't know about that particular culture. That's actually the first time I've heard of that one. But like C.S. Lewis has a great way of explaining it. They've had cultures where a man could have multiple wives, right? Yet, um, and we've had cultures where men can take slave women anytime they want, right? But yet, it's pretty universal. I'm sure you could find the exception, but it's pretty universal. You can't take another man's wife, right? Um, we again, when you look at, I'm treading into waters here, so trigger warning to anybody listening. If you look at the concept of rape as an example, right? Um, we would fundamentally say it was wrong, and I can look to other cultures where they said in certain circumstances it was okay, right? Yet again, it was always wrong to rape somebody else's wife. Or did you ever see the show Vikings? Same sort of concept
No,
there.
I've wanted to watch it though.
Okay, it's very good. So like one of the interesting things there is you could never rape a Viking woman, but you could a slave woman. So like at some fundamental level, there's a value to life that we will create cultural boundaries around, right? Where we get into trouble is when we start to extend that out to very specific circumstances, right? So, what the heck? If you're okay with it, if you have to edit it out, let me know. But I'll give an example, right? So when someone turns around and says two dudes can't get married, right? And they're like, well, because we have these biblical said signs or whatever, biblical reasons for doing it. There was a way we were created, and I understand all the arguments about it. And if you'd actually ask me, Frank, on one hand, I'd say yes. If we lived in a perfect world, my stance would be two dudes probably want to get married, right? But we can't make that a fundamental moral law because we don't A, live in a perfect world. B, the second you do that, why is it okay for me to make that a fundamental law for you, but not for me? Because the hypocrisy of Christianity is I made that a rule for you, but when it comes to me, I'm forgiven. So I'll ask for forgiveness and I'm good. That's the wrong fight. Like I think people don't realize that's the wrong fight. So when I talk about being open, like I'm pretty confident there's nothing you could tell me that you could teach me that would say genocide is a good thing. I'm pretty confident there's nothing you could tell me that would say rape is a good thing. Because that's a moral truth. Now, I grew up in a home that was very anti two dudes being married, and I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. Like so when I talk about remaining open has to come from this point of logic and understanding and making sense. Like there's certain circumstances you cannot tell me that I will give away one of those things for. But there's many circumstances I would remain open to. And there's many times in the past I thought I was dead right about something that I ended up being dead wrong about something. So how without staying open, how do you find that blind spot? Does that make sense? I know I kind of touched on some bad issues there. So
no, it's like beliefs. Beliefs are things that you can't be taught. They are just fundamentally what you have until you see for your own eyes otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And there are certain things that are, like you said, either moral truths or beliefs or whatever fundamental thing that you are, the fiber of you believes cannot be changed unless it cannot be taught, your opinion cannot be shifted on unless you are physically in the scenario where you see it with your own two eyes or feel it or whatever, right? And is the process of you, like, if you don't mind me asking, did you find your version of, like, not your version, but the Christianity and was that a journey that you were raised with, or was that something that you later in life searched and found and then gave you reasons and a way to live by. Because I noticed there's two types of people that have that. It's like born and bred, that's how I was raised, or people that find it later in life and they have this moment, this awakening, this journey that explains everything and then gives them this like new lease of life.
So I grew up. My dad's a retired minister, so I grew up in a Christian household. But will fully admit this part behind it. In my younger days, I was the type of Christian I would speak out against now. I just took. See, here's the problem. When you have people say they're speaking for God's word and you just take them at their word without your own study, then you assume you're just speaking God's word. And I had people like that in my life. So I regurgitated a lot of that. And again, I'm not proud of it, but there was a lot of, what would be the right way of saying it? There was just a lot of, there's a lot of judgment in my life for the longest time. And by the way, that I think had a lot to do with my cockiness. I think that had a lot to do with my journey, because one of the things when I started going through my journey is was releasing those judgments. Like that dude cuts you off in traffic and you want to go punch him out. Well, we don't know where his story's at, so you don't tell yourself a story around it, right? What ended up happening in my experience with Christianity is I got to a point where I needed to have concrete reasons to have faith. I couldn't blindly do it anymore just because I was told something. And I needed to challenge assumptions. And that's what I went out and did with an open mind. And I found a lot of the assumptions, like there's things that I agreed with, and there's a lot of things I changed my opinion on around it. So to a degree, I would say almost a little bit of both, because I hate to say this, like, again, I got to be very clear on this. I think this outside sort of source of truth, to go back, I still stand by. That's what allows us to wake up to the realities of this victimhood world. And when I talk about Christianity, though, I have to define, yes, I go to church and I help my church, but I'm not talking about the church. Like it's like there's a difference between it as an institution and as a biblical religion. And again, not trying to be preachy, but if a Christian's talking to you who isn't in the Bible every day, they're a part of an institution. They're not a part of a religion. They're not striving to understand. They're not striving for truth. If a Christian approaches you, or anybody of any religion approaches you, and basically there's nothing you can do to create acceptance over something, they are not a Christian. They're just blindly following something, because biblically there's right and wrong, there's law, but there is very much gospel, and that people love to use that word, but they don't like to live by it. Because if we truly live by that, then I'd have the freedom to be able to turn around and say, you know what? I think something you're doing in your lifestyle is wrong. And I love you. You are a great individual and a great human. Just like Todd did with me many, many years ago. Nathan, I fully love and accept whatever way you want to go about it. And I will accept you. Now, this is why I want to challenge you.
Hmm. And do you think those like beliefs and ways you live by can be cast further than religion? So if we like cast the net further than religion, and let's talk about like beliefs around money growing up, beliefs around like dating, around relationships, around friendships, there are things that we are the environments we are raised in give us the way we think later in life about certain things that we can then struggle with. Like one of the biggest things I struggled with if we go down the finances route, that you have to look after every penny, you have to hold on to everything, because
you would hate to be my accountant, man.
No, trust me, my accountant hates me. Yep. But it's because I was raised like that, I believed that. There was no. I saw other people with more money. I just thought nothing of it. It was just this is the way money works, because it was a true belief. And then until I started seeing it from my own eyes, that okay, you can invest into things and get it back, or you are an asset yourself. You can invest into yourself. You can spend money without it being irresponsible, or you like there was a shift that I had to go through to then get to almost complete that level and get to the next level and defeat the new boss or whatever. And how do people go from things that they may be raised, if they're raised as working class or underclass, and then how, like, because you see stories of people doing it, you see people go from the working class, the underclass, up to the uber wealthy, right? And they cannot hold the same beliefs that they did when they started to where they do now.
Right.
Surely.
So I think it's, again, I'm not claiming to have an answer. I'm claiming to have a theory, more than anything. Human beings, through everything I've learned, we've kind of developed from two ways. That yes, our environment plays a big role, but there's something also different about us that does determine us, right? That makes everything different, because a part of the reality is we often do have two or more human beings that grow up in the exact same environment, and they become wildly different, and they respond to the same environments wildly different, and they'll also have a ton of similarities, right? So I would venture to say, first of all, of the premise is that it's both. It's not either or. It's not nature or nurture. It's both. I think we have a nature, and I think it gets nurtured, right? The other thing too is, when we look at specific examples, it's hard to argue specific examples, because that's where experience plays such a big role, and upbringing plays such a big role in everything else. Here's what I can offer for as potential conversation, though, is at the very core, there are four things every single human being is trying to fulfill through every single action in their life. Now, how they go about to fulfill that is very different. So the first thing we would go to fulfill is a sense of certainty, right? Now, the certainty covers two ways. The first way certainty covers is like, I have food on the table, I have a job, I have a house, I have all these things. But certainty is also, I know the rules of the game. So we are of different cultures, but they're enough of the same that I know the general rules of our culture. So I'm pretty comfortable doing this. But if you were like Japanese, I would probably be acting very different. I'd be trying to understand the structure of the culture, because it's not something I know. I don't have certainty in it, right? So the one thing that guides us all is certainty. The second one is a sense of adventure. So this is the spice of life. So every decision, once we have certainty, we can move on to adventure. And now these are things, if you're a sick and twisted person like my wife, and you like roller coasters and you like heights, that's her thing, is not mine. She strives in that. That's her adventure. My adventure are these podcasts, these conversations. I have no idea which way it's going to go, man. I don't know if I've just accidentally offended you and you're going to yell at me. And I find it fun having these conversations and at times debates, right? That's my sense of adventure, or starting businesses. But the third and fourth one, these are two I really want to touch on. The one is also a sense of significance, right? So we need to feel significant, and men have this as a higher value typically than women. It's not that women don't need to feel significant. It's just that men have it at a much higher need than women. And this need for significance is to feel important, to feel listened to feel belonging, to feel accepted, right? And then the last one is the need for love and connection. And that love and connection is like not just the need for having a relationship and having a couple of friends. It's the need to be a part of something bigger. Like, ironically, antisocial people connect with antisocial people and become a part of something bigger. It's the most ironic thing. People are tribal human beings no matter where we go, right? So the reason why it's so hard to answer the question that you proposed it as is, if you frame it in the way of how you view money and how you have to fulfill these core needs, then we can have a conversation about it, about why we view it differently, but we're still trying to fulfill it. So maybe there was a sense of uncertainty in your life with the way, I have no idea, I'm just going to make pure assumptions or pure, not even predictions, just a pure scenario, right? So maybe there's this sense of uncertainty that your parents struggled with money, and it's something that you saw and it created uncertainty in you. So therefore you did not want to struggle with it, right? Maybe they instilled in you a sense of significance, that the person who understood where all their money went were important people. Maybe the type of people you hung out with were the type of people that organized their money all the time, and that's who you would love and connect with and relate with, right? This is what I mean by the action is fulfilling a need. And maybe I'm the opposite. Maybe me spending money, that makes me gives fulfills my sense of adventure. Maybe my parents were wealthy and I never had to worry about money. So it's not creating any sort of certainty for me, right? These needs that the guy who robs somebody out front of a liquor store with a gun, like you think when that guy, when his victim is kneeling down, peeing himself, that robber doesn't feel pretty damn significant. Like he holds all the power in the world, right? So the question then becomes, are we fulfilling these things in a healthy way or an unhealthy way? And like when we go out and talk about the morality of sex as an example, I'll just use this as an example. And why I think we have the wrong conversation is this isn't a morality of some higher power told us it was wrong or society is going to judge you. It is you're striving to have a need for significance or a need for loving connection. And I know that if you go and use your body to get that need for loving connection, whether you're a guy or a girl, doesn't matter, you are going to feel empty because it is like junk food for the soul, man. It is like you get that little bit of loving connection and then it is just gone. And then that strives now have to go get it again and then it's just gone and then go get it again. And if you are feeling completely fulfilled and you want to go have many partners, go nuts. I really don't care. That's where I don't have judgment. But if it is not fulfilling you and this is what you're doing to get a little glimpse of it, a little glimpse of happiness, then I'm very concerned because when it goes, it's going to go in a lot harder way and you're going to feel a lot more alone when it's done, right? Saving money or not saving money isn't the issue. If I go gambling, because like gambling is always one that I've been a gambler. I do not understand why I get addicted to gambling when I'm there, but when I'm not there, it doesn't bother me. And I finally figured it out why. Because the stories are so damn awesome. I really, do you know how many times I've been down and out and I hit a jackpot on a slot machine and I'm up $1,500? Sure, I might have only netted 200, but I'm up. That makes me feel significant. That gives me love and connection. That gives me this thrill of adventure. It feeds all these things in me. And then you wonder why I go back 10 more times and lose money and still go back. Because I want that one time that makes the connection. If that's how I'm fulfilling significance, that's a pretty shitty way to fulfill it. And that's going to be a very bad way in life to fulfill significance. Now, I have a daughter who's 7, man, and one of the big changes in my life about 4 years ago, this is why I quit drinking. I didn't quit drinking because I thought I was an alcoholic. I quit drinking because I realized I was using alcohol to fulfill these needs in an unhealthy way. And I didn't want to anymore because it was creating problems with my life and my family. I don't have anything against drinking, but if you're using it to create a sense of certainty or create a sense of connection with people around you, be very careful with it, right? I started getting my fulfillment through my family. I started getting my sense of who I am through my family. It was a big shift about 4 years ago, and I've been very happy. My wife and I have never gotten along better. It's like our love grows every day. Now all of a sudden, this is a great feeling. Like I leave the house and it's not like I just left a bed and I feel lonely. It's I leave the house and I still feel satisfied and I come home and I feel satisfied, right? Once those 4 needs get fulfilled, then you get to explore 2 more that affect the soul more than anything. And that's contribution and loving connection. And what that means is once you're fulfilling those in a healthy way, you are now contributing back to society. You are now growing as an individual. You are now exploring all these things around you. And ironically, when we get into that mode, it fulfills the other 4 needs, right? So I guess that's a long way. The reason why I had to say that is because we can talk about individual circumstances all we want when it comes to morality. And we will always miss the boat on it because too many people talk about the action, right? What I would start to question, and if we want to go back to it, is what were you trying to fulfill, right? So let's just have some fun for a minute. Why do you think you watched your money so much?
I think I did because I was scared it was going to go away.
All right. And if it went away, how would that affect your life?
I'd have to go back to watching every penny and maybe not doing the things I want to do or
And how
having
do
the
you
things I want to have.
And how do you feel when you're like that? When you don't have the things that you want to have and you can't do the things that you want to do, how does that affect you on a day-to-day life? How does that make you feel?
Gives me a what's the point feeling, emptiness, I feel unimportant. I don't feel like I can provide. I feel less than.
Hmm. So what those three questions tell me is you don't pinch money because of money. And this is the problem so many people think, especially when it comes to money. People think it's about money. This is not about money for you at all, man. This is about it's so much deep. It's about fulfilling those needs. It's how you feel important. It's how you feel significant. It's how you make sure you're a protector. It's how you have adventure. It boils down to this thing. If we were to take away that aspect of your life, we're taking away a massive aspect of your life, right? Now, and ironically, more money doesn't actually solve that. Like, do you see how more money doesn't solve the problem, the third question problem? It only
It's the
solves the
symptom.
first
It's
question
the
problem.
symptom
Yeah.
of a deeper problem, and whether it's drink, whether it's money, whether it's whatever vice, I guess you have, maybe see it as the symptom of a deeper problem, because people will look at it as this is a problem I have. I have a drink problem. I have a attachment to money problem. I have a whatever problem. This is the problem, and they see that as the beast that they need to defeat. And then actually, there's something. It's the tip of the iceberg, really.
Hmm. Like, I have a good buddy of mine who is a straight up alcoholic. He needs a lot of help, and it sucks because he got put into rehab and he paid for it, and his family kind of pushed him into it. And when he got out, all his family did was hold judgment over him. Alcohol is the problem, is the symptom of the problem. Nobody, the reason why he can't go get help is because nobody is seeing what he's attempting to fulfill with alcohol, right? And this is where I kind of want to loop it back, because this is where morality plays such a big role, is when we dive deep into what morality really is, it's about, in many ways, fulfilling those needs in a positive or negative way. And there are some universal things to do it. I have never met somebody, I have met a lot of people who have told me they find healthy relationships by sleeping around. Again, both men and women. And I've met even more who've told me that that's what they used to think. Right? So it's like, and when we talk about a basis of Christianity, when we talk about why I have faith, is because these bases of Christianity is not about the good and the bad and moral people and blah, 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 whatever, even really helping the needy. It's the basis fulfills all these needs and then fulfills a growth and contribution need. And when we come from it properly, it's why we can have rules and yet not be in judgment. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I
your
think so.
nurture is how you fulfill those needs. Your nature is needing those needs fulfilled.
And is that a thing where you have to just get shit wrong for a long time before you realize that? Do you think?
I don't know. I think it's definitely not a conversation we're having enough, because we're so stuck on failure and self that, and it's just like a trend that keeps going over and over and over. Like, I know these things, and I wish I could tell you I was the perfect dad, and that my daughter is always flourishing, and that I never get mad, and I never get, one of the hardest things. I don't know if you're a dad or not yet, but one of the
Next
hardest
month.
things next month. Congratulations, man. One of the hardest things is when your daughter pisses you off or your son pisses you off, and they are truly sorry for it, and you can see it in their eyes that they are sorry for it, and you don't want to let go of the hatred. Like, you hate what they did, not them, but you hate what they did. It's kind of like when a friend messes you over and they are truly apologetic, and it's like, I don't care, I'm still going to be mad at you, right? It is so hard to let that go. Yet, is that not just the absolute essence of selfishness? Like, my feeling of anger and pain is now going to override your need to be forgiven. of something you're truly sorry for, and it does nobody any good to hold on to that, then you know it's just destructive. And I know this, and I still struggle with it. Like that's the nature of humanity, man. And that's the hard part.
It's the gap between action and reaction. It's the middle part that I especially, and I know a lot of people struggle with, is the thing itself, the car crash, the death, the whatever, the fire, the whatever event. The event is the event. It is neither good nor bad. It is the perspective on the event, which is the reason we have emotional responses. And if someone very close to me dies, I have much more of an emotional reaction than if one of my friends, I can feel, if one of my friends' family member dies, yeah, I can feel sad for them, but it's not going to have the same emotional response. And that's because it's not got the perspective and the memory and the thing attached to it. Without being like cold and nothing matters, things are just what they are. How do we step in and maybe go, okay, the daughter did something bad, I'm angry at what she did, and she's very apologetic. How do you step in and go, okay, that is the thing, this is my reaction, I need to intervene something in the middle so that I can separate the two and move past it quicker?
So one of the things people do a lot is we create patterns. This will make sense to answer your question, by the way. We create patterns, and once one of those patterns start, we can't just stop it. We actually have to let the pattern play itself out. So, for example, I can't remember. It's you have your programming, which leads to your thoughts, which leads to your feelings, which leads to your actions, which leads to your results, which reinforces your programming, right? And once this programming starts and you've been triggered, it has to follow the whole loop. It doesn't, like, one of the things that it took me a long time to understand is if you have an anger problem and something triggers your anger and people are like, why can't you just let it go? It's because your program actually has to play out the full loop. So when you try to deal with anything in that loop, it's impossible because it's the loop. Where you need to work on it is the trigger and how to respond to the trigger before that pattern even happens and recreate that pattern. So, and this is why I can tell you my journey started 16, 17 years ago when I was 26. I'm now 42. But why I fail all the time, because changing those triggers is a very difficult thing to do. So I'll give you an example, but it can be done. So I'll give you an example. When my wife and I were in life coaching, because we got to some very nasty points in our relationship that we thought we wouldn't stay together, we heard about pattern interruption, right? And you ever get to one of those moments where it's like, you're not hearing the other person, but you don't care they're not hearing you. And when both people are like that, it's like, why the hell are we even talking? But you still feel the insistent need to talk. So we did not do this. We did this with paper airplanes, but I want to give you the more spicy example. Our coach told us about a couple who would have this. And when you get into an argument, you get into a loop. And you can't break the thoughts of that loop. Like, here's the other thing, too. How many times have you left an argument where you're like, dude, why didn't I just shut up? I now understand. How come I couldn't have understand the way she felt when I was there, right? It's because you're stuck in this pattern. Well, when you start to recognize that pattern and you see you're stuck in it, you can do a pattern break. And I'm not joking. This is what one couple actually used to do. They would be in the middle of a heated argument, and when one person noticed it, they would start taking off their clothes. Like, could you just imagine that, like, you're in a heated argument with your spouse? First of all, this would be amazing. And she's just like, yeah, I hate you. Boobs. Woo! Right? What that does in your brain is it interrupts the pattern. Like, especially for men, man, there's no way you can look at boobs and be like, oh, I'm still going to be mad at you, right? You're like, what the hell is going on? Or you ever see those TV shows where two people are about to fight and one guy kisses the other guy on the lips instead, right? It's like, it's a pattern interruption that breaks that process. And as you start the first time, again, this is where forgiveness is so important. You can't stop the pattern when you're in it, accept it, and then start to recognize what triggered it. And then once you start to see the trigger happening, do something. So my wife and I used to do paper airplanes. We were not brave enough to get naked. We used to fold paper airplanes and we would just throw it at the other person mid-argument. And because we also agreed on it, it was like the pattern interruption in my head would now be like, okay, what am I missing? Like I went from being so focused on self to be like, okay, what is she actually trying to tell me here? Because I think I'm making sense and I think I'm logical, but clearly it's not coming through, right?
Mm.
So it's the one thing I do challenge people with is pattern interruption. And I especially advise it with yourself. Now it's hard with your daughter because your daughter, you just have to understand the patterns. And I work on it in every other relationship, so I recognize it with my daughter. And she's 7, so I can't. It's hard to teach her pattern. Like she gets into a pattern and it's just like a meltdown. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do here. Well, I just let it ride for now, right? Um,
Do you think
but
becoming more tolerant will help? Not more tolerant, but more. So I thought for years I had anger problems, and when I started just getting my life in order and started feeling less on a knife edge and less fight or flight 24/7, I realized that I just had more tolerance for things than I did before because I wasn't the cherry on top all the time. It was like the base layer. It was just the build, and I didn't have to react so suddenly. And that was because I was in a position where maybe the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, maybe the needs you were talking about earlier, where I have certain layers developed enough to feel a sense of comfort and peace more than I did before. So I'm less reactive to things. And then I go, oh, do I have anger problems, or was I just in a bad position before?
or maybe that's the source of anger problems. So I think you're touching on something that a lot of people start like. This starts to cascade. So when you start looking at these needs and you start seeing somebody do something in life that you just despise, like a thief. Like my wife hates people who steal, right? So we use that as an example. A thief. You're like, I hate thieves. There's no right or wrong about it. You steal, you're done. But then when you start to understand how you connect to your needs and how the things that you hate are trying to fulfill these needs. So like if you don't like smoking, figure out the need it's trying to connect to. If you don't like drinking, if you don't like your anger, if you don't like this, you start to see your needs play out. Then you start to look at that person stealing, that action that you hated, and you're like, you know what? I actually feel a lot of empathy for that person because they're trapped in a cycle and they can't get out of it. And you were trapped in a cycle and you couldn't get out of it until somebody showed you grace, right? Um, that that's where I think we create more empathy is so by understanding those triggers, by understanding that we're trying to fulfill these things, that my anger, my trying to prove my wife right is actually nothing to do with her. It's everything to do with me and my own insecurities. I have no idea whether the way you're talking about with money, like I could see how that creates problems in relationships. So you can focus on penny pinching in a relationship, or you can be like, you know what? Frank, man, you are not feeling certain, and I want you to feel certain in life, right? If I was your partner, if I was a lot more beautiful and ready to have your child, right? I like Frank, I want you to feel more certain in life, and now I can do things to help you feel more certain, and it solves that problem. So going back to your anger, is I would very much agree with that. Is I would probably say you probably did have an anger issue. Yet, as you started looking at the world with empathy and started looking at yourself with empathy, now you're not feeling anger anymore. You're feeling understanding, which, by the way, is a great way to feel love and connection, and a very healthy way to do it. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think it comes to a point of being, I guess, aligned with what you actually want to not achieve as such, but the route you want to be on, feeling fulfilled. Like part of my fulfillment, I used to attach to the outcome I was going for. So the money, the whatever, the version of success I saw, or the car I drove, or the material, the bullshit, the stuff that doesn't matter. And until I realized that actually the fulfillment was coming from the journey of getting it, the anticipation, the cycle, the problem solving, the constantly trying to figure it out, the waking up, like you said, early and going to the gym before the day starts to constantly become the best version of yourself, to constantly progress. And when you realize that, hold on, that is actually what's making me feel good, because every goal you achieve and every milestone you hit and every new car you get and every whatever, you get that hedonic treadmill realization that you just constantly want the next thing. That moment for me was like, oh my God, like I woke up. I woke up to, I just like becoming better.
And it's amazing how that fulfills things. And what's also amazing is, and we haven't gone here, but my wife likes an organized house. I really don't care. I'm not an organized person, right? Yet the way I strive to just grow and be a person, that's the order she's trying to find around her house. So I no longer, or our house, I should say. So I no longer actually have to understand why she needs order. It doesn't really matter. All I have to understand is that same drive that I have to go get this stuff in order. That's what's feeding this. And boy, man, I feel a lot better when my wife supports me. So she'll probably feel a lot better if I support her. Right?
100%. It's knowing what, because again, like that was a big realization for me when me and my partner decided we were going to have a kid. It was like, we need to create an environment here where we both support each other, because if we don't support each other, we're not going to support, or this kid's going to grow up in an environment where we pretend to support each other.
Yeah. And like, is it not amazing? Like, you talk about growth. Like, what the hell? I'm going down enough rabbit holes. Might as well go to another one. Is it not amazing? You talk about growth and you talk about being a better person today, tomorrow. We talk about empathy for someone else. And this is another big one. And then out of the next breath, I see people saying, well, you guys should go live together before you're married. Right. And again, this is just one of those things that is food for thought, right? Maybe somebody got it right to say you shouldn't, because maybe if I go into a relationship about, I need to make sure you can fulfill me, maybe that's a bad way to start a relationship. Because if we're really growth orientated and we really want to give back out to the people, we want to give to our partner, maybe we need to go into a relationship to say, how can I pour into you? Right? And then if your partner looks at you and says, how can I pour into you? You end up having something really cool and really beautiful. But if you started off with two people saying, I need your proof that you're able to give me what I want. That's why I'm not going to make a commitment to you. That's not why I'm going to go forward with this. Why we're going to move in together first, because you need to prove to me you're going to give me what I need. And then you wonder why it doesn't always work out. It was like, it's just so backwards to me, man. It really is. But I get it.
Do you think it's outside of relationships as well? Do you think it can be in friendships and business partnerships? Like, how can I provide, and just in general life, like, how can I provide as much value as possible to this individual in this scenario, whether it's for 10 seconds passing in a supermarket or whether it's for 20 years in a...
Yeah. Or what if it's at work? Like, who do you think goes to work and says, I'm only here for the company to give me something and I expect promotions? Or the person who goes, I'm going to give it all to the company, not expecting anything in return, right? Or expecting very little, whatever that looks like. This is, it's that victimhood mentality. You move in together before you, and by the way, no judgment. If someone's living with their partner, I'm not telling you that you need to go move out. All I'm hoping is that you reframe how you're looking at it. That's all I'm encouraging here, is reframe how you're looking at it. Jobs, I see this all the time with people in jobs. You're great. The person, so I made a point. We have Tim Hortons here. That's our coffee shop. Anybody who knows Canada knows Tim Hortons. I make it a point to always read name tags and call them by name and appreciate them at that moment. Like, it's small and it's how I can serve them at this moment. And it's funny because one of my regular drive-thrus, when I first met this lady, she was an older lady. She was so grumpy as hell. And now we have the best conversations. I got stuck behind someone. We talked for like 5 minutes today while we're waiting for the drive-thru to carry on, right? And I can't help but think it brightens up her day the same way it does mine.
I was talking about this to someone recently about and it's similar to what you were saying about pattern interruptions. I think we're all weirdly in this mode where it's weird to be nice. It's weird to be forward with someone. So like what you said about, I always make an effort to say a name badge. When I'm in a shop, I'll always go out my way to say hello to someone or say have a good day, or be like, oh, not even over, just what I expect a normal level of nice to be. And sometimes they literally, like, you can see them freeze and go, what the fuck? What are you doing? Why are you talking to me? What are you doing? And I'm like, bro, I'm just saying hello. Like, so have a good day. Do you know what I mean? And it's weird how that's not the normal. That's the abnormal to do that. And I think that's actually a really positive thing that, like you said, could brighten their day. Could, if they're having a shitty day, might just give them a little bit of...
Well, let's go one step farther than that, man. The whole, so much in society tells us you don't need to be that way to other people, and nor should you ever expect to be treated that way. And then we wonder why, like the whole general movement is you don't need anybody, you only rely on yourself, right? And the problem is, and I get it, because by the way, that's them fulfilling the need for certainty because so many people let them down in their lives that they cannot be certain about anybody else. I have it right now with a business partner. I've been let down in business so many times that I have a business partner that I'm struggling to trust, who's a great guy, who has been nothing but supportive. And I have to face it. And it's not easy, but every day I have to go in and I bug him. His name is Len, and I'm like, Len, I'm calling you because I didn't want to call you today. And I have no idea what the heck to talk about, but you're my business partner and this is what you want, right? Older guy, great guy. But everything in society is telling us you have to do it by yourself. And again, that's just such bullshit. Like, no wonder we feel trapped. No wonder we feel angry. No wonder we feel alone. Or parents, I love being a dad, man, and I wish everybody parents. It's such a mind bend. Like, you're told everything your parents did was wrong. Somehow you became a functional human being in society who's relatively successful, but everything your parents did as a kid was wrong. Screen time, what you feed them, what you eat them. So screw you, mom and dad. If you let my kid watch TV, then I'm not bringing him over anymore. And I'm going to take your grandkid away from you. Like somehow that is a healthier relationship than a relationship with your grandparents. Like, and I apologize. I get passionate about this because we talk about anger, we talk about stress, we talk about anxiety. You know, one of the big things that changed in my life when I started feeling empathy for other people is it fulfilled this in such a healthy way that I was a very jealous man. I used to think my brother would sleep with my wife if I let them go hang out with each other. Like, I was a very jealous guy. And then I realized one day that jealousy had nothing to do with her or him. It had everything to do with my self-worth. That what exactly you're talking about. I'm trying to gain my significance in all the wrong ways. And so I feel crappy all the time because I don't feel significant. And by the way, I'm not jealous anymore. Actually, as a matter of fact, I make a joke to my wife when she tries to make me jealous. Like, hey, look, Jason Momoa's on TV. And I'm like, yeah, go get it. I know I'm better than him. Like, if that's the world you want, have fun. Like, I'm now confident about it, right? And obviously we're joking. She doesn't have a chance in hell with Jason Momoa. But it just changes how you view things. And that's why I get passionate about it, because I just find everybody is giving bad advice that's trapping people in more anger, more anxiety, more problems. Be more empathetic. Like, one last thing I'll say before I'm off my thing. One of the phrases I'm really beginning to hate is, well, in an airplane, you put your own mask on before you help someone else. So you need to take care of yourself before you take care of someone else. That's bullshit. First of all, in an airplane, you're crashing. You're probably going to die anyways. I don't care if you put yours on first or someone else's. Relationships are not crashing airplanes, right? If I'm waiting for myself, this goes back to what we talked about earlier. If I'm waiting for myself to feel good to help you, guess what? I'm not a helpful person because I have a standard in me that's never going to be fulfilled. And I think, and this was the aha moment we taught, I think I'm a nice person. I think I'm a good person. And I have all these great reasons of why I no longer am and why I can do all these horrible things. But I'm a great person. No, you know what? If you go put someone else's mask on first with a little, that's what you'll do with a lot.
Do you think
Sorry,
that?
Matt.
No, mate, I love it. I think it's important, and I think you've got a journey that you've been through that you've had to learn this the hard way. But what I'm trying to understand is that I don't think there's an easy way to learn it. I don't.
There
I
could be
don't
though.
like. What would it be? Passing it
Well,
on to, like, as you've been through it, passing it on to. I heard this the other day that tough times that we experience as individuals help us deal with the next time we're in that scenario, right? And like we said, there's always going to be phases of life, and we can learn from our low points so that the next low point that is similar, we can help navigate it better. I think we get given low points and hardships so that we can help other people experience those when they're in those similar situations. And okay, this is Maybe they just need to be sat with, maybe they just need to be heard, maybe they do need a solution, whatever. But you've been there, you've felt it, you know what they're going through. That's enough to help someone sometimes.
You know, it's funny because this is actually kind of coming through a little bit together in my head. In the coaching world, when you're coaching somebody, we're often told that we're not there to give an answer. We're there to help them self-discover the answer. And I know this seems like a theme I'm not purposely going back to, but grace, man, like you want someone in your life to fast track to get from A to B, and you really want to help them, start showing them grace. Quit showing them law-based things. Show them grace. Show them you will accept them no matter what through all their faults. I'm not saying you accept their actions. That's a big different conversation. We are not accepting their actions. We're not accepting what they do. If they steal, I'm not saying, oh no, you're good. I'm not tolerant of their actions. I do not accept them. But as a person, I accept them. And I'm going to be there as they want to grow. And every time they make a decision to make a step forward, I'm going to be right beside them. You want to fast track people? I said, let's put that to the test and measure. We'll come back in a year and see if it worked. Because I guarantee you, I don't know where your monumental change was, but I guarantee you it started with grace. I guarantee you it did not. It started with somebody accepting you. Oh, this internet's driving me nuts. I'm like systematically closing down programs. Sorry about that, man. No, I was just saying, I guarantee you it started with somebody accepting you for you and also being at rock bottom. It wasn't just I was at rock bottom. It was I was at rock bottom and this was the acceptance I found.
And if someone doesn't have someone around them that has that, so maybe your friend of yours that is tried rehab and came out and wasn't accepted or was almost shamed for even being there in the first place. How does someone with no one do that? Or if they feel, even if they can hear all this and go, I get it, but I want to do this solo, or feel like I need to do a certain element solo.
I don't know. That's another hard part of the answer because I try to help people in business all the time, and they don't actually listen, and they don't want to take the steps. Like at the end of the day, there's at the end of the day, it still lays on that person to take action. You know, Todd showed me grace. I can show my friend grace, and I can accept him, and I can be accepted. Yet again, Todd didn't push me out a door. He walked with me, but I had to take the steps.
Because it's very rare that someone's going to have someone like you in their life, right? Or Todd in their life, or it's rare. Or maybe they do, but do they need to tell them, this is how I need to be spoken to? This is how I need to be dealt with? Can you deal with me like this? Or is it
that kind of goes back to that victimhood mentality? Like if someone's listening to this and trying to figure out, first of all, I guarantee you they've had somebody. I think back before Todd, and I was not the uncarved block. I was the pool cue before that moment with Todd. I thought I knew what I was, where I was, and how I was. Like, for some reason at that moment with Todd, that's when I understood that I don't know anything. Like that, we used to have this analogy that if this circle is what you know, the outside of it, the line on the outside is what you don't know. And then when it comes this big, this is now what you know, which is so much more. But the outside circle is now also so much more what you don't know. Like, so many people go through life trying to prove to everybody else what they are all the time. And I get it. I know why. But that's where you have to start. Like, again, you have a Todd in your life. You have a Nathan in your life. You have a Frank in your life. The difference is you're not being the uncarved block. You're being the pool cue. You think you know more than that person. You're not. You might think you're a humble person. How did this? You ever see the movie Rounders? No, okay, it's a movie about poker. One of my favorite lines in it: if you can't spot the sucker at the table, you are the sucker at the table. If you can't spot the person who's there to help you in life, you are the problem. There you go. That's your trigger right now. If you're thinking in your life of someone who does not, and by the way, That might mean, and maybe you actually have nobody in your life who will unconditionally accept you, then go strive to be the person that would be unconditionally accepted. And I'm not saying change who you are. I mean, like, just go grow, go out with humility. There's another great phrase I love, that when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. Hey man, I have to apologize. This internet seems to be getting worse. It's like jumping in and out. I don't know if you heard that. When the student is ready, the teacher arrives. So I apologize for the internet issues.
When the student is ready, the teacher arrives. Yeah. So it's it. I felt like that person that you just said so many times before. I've felt like that listening to podcasts, reading books, and I'm like searching in my mind for people that, oh, who is that person in my life? And I'm like, fuck, it's me. I'm that person.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you said, you just got to be slapped in the face and gone, you are the problem. You are the problem in your life. You don't know what you don't know. You think you know more than you think. And I went, maybe, I don't know. I see now as I want to write a book one day, and it's the idea would be around curiosity. Curiosity saved my life, and I think it can save a lot of people's lives. If you are just curious to what's out there, whether you take action or not, being curious is going to fundamentally help no matter what. And seeing things, or ask, like you said, ask why. Why is that like that? Why is this like that? Why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? Not just feel the feeling, or think the thought, or do the action. Ask why before you do everything. Why am I like this? And that was the slow journey for me to go, okay, there's more going on here. Like I said, it's the tip of the iceberg. It's the symptom. It's the what is really beneath the surface here. And that curiosity helped me get out my own way a little bit, because I didn't feel like I had anyone a Todd at that time. And my version of Todd was podcasts and books and hearing it and hearing it enough. And by no means was it the first time I heard it, but hearing it enough and reading it enough that I realized I was the problem and I was the person in the way of myself. And I had to accept that, be embarrassed about it, even though the embarrassment was only for myself. I was embarrassed about myself, and walk through it or figure it out from there.
Yeah. And I'll put this out there. Like, I'm just going to quickly name drop my website. If you go to syntheticecho.com, all my socials are there. Click Instagram and message me if you have a question. By the way, I have given this to people on 76 podcasts now. Do you know how many people have messaged me? One. This is the crazy part. You are welcome to. If this resonated with you, shoot me a message. Let me know what you think. Shoot me a follow. I will follow you until you're like, hey, send me a pic. And then I'm like, well, that's not happening. Right? If you have a question, this could be it. I'm literally helping. I finished a podcast the other day from this young kid from Nigeria. It was about 2-3 weeks ago. And he was the first person after the podcast to ask me, how did I get into the AI tech world? It was an AI podcast. And so I sat down, I chatted with him for a half an hour. He was on WhatsApp, and I now share ideas with him. I'm trying to teach him. I'm trying to train him. I'm trying to get out there. Like, these people in your life, there's no harm in asking. Just go ask. Reach out to me. Like, go on Instagram, follow me, go to syntheticecho.com, like my stuff or whatever. I don't care. Reach out to me and just ask a question, and it'll be me. Like, I have an AI bot that might get back to you for the first message, but I read them all and I respond to them all, and only one person has ever taken me up on that.
There you go. I think this is a good opportunity to plug yourself, man.
All right.
So what have you got going on? We've not even talked about your book or anything, but what?
No, and you know what? It's okay. Like, if you like this concept, so my book is Why Won't He Just Log Off? And I don't really want to, like, that. It has to do with gaming addiction and exactly everything we're talking about, filling in with these core needs. So you can replace gaming with whatever you want. If you want to know, if you want to go deeper of where I think about this and some real strategies to get out of it, the 3 questions I asked you, by the way, when we were talking about the money thing, that strategy is in my book. That's a strategy, by the way, the 3-question strategy to get down to what really is the needs and the issues. Right?
Remind me of those 3 questions. Sorry.
It's going 3D. Why, like, for example, if I asked you, why do you do this podcast? Well, how does that affect your life? By that affecting your life, what ends up happening, right? You start to get to the real issues, and you get away from the surface. Check out syntheticecho.com. Reach out to me. Like, this is truly a passion. I run tech, and if you want social media programs, you want tech, you want to talk AI, that is my business. It's what I love doing. But if you just want to say, hey, give me a book to recommend to read, I will respond to you. Like, I don't know, I can't really be a therapist on social media, I guess, but I can respond, I can encourage, I can help you. And if you're calling, if you want to just message to complain, you can do that. I'll tell you to quit complaining and go suck it up. So be prepared for that. But you can still do that because I accept you the way you are. You're good. I'll just tell you what's holding you back very bluntly. So, yeah.
Love it, man. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it. You're doing mad stuff, man. You've got a great. I want to have you back because I want to go into. I feel like we could talk all day, but it's. I think what you said is important, and it can tell it comes from a place of actual experience and not just fluffy Instagram quotes that people say. You can very much see that you're passionate about it, and you've done the work, and you've been through the stuff, and you've experienced it, and you're teaching from a place of I say this about sales a lot. Like, when people learn in sales, there is no perfect way to sell. It's just a Frankenstein's monster of other people's ways that you've developed your own way. And it sounds like you've just been on your own journey. You've just plucked things from different lessons, from different experiences, from different areas of life, and just gone, this is how I believe. This is what I believe. This is how I feel. And it's great. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'd love to be back. I've enjoyed this. I don't think people have let me rant and rave for an hour and 45 minutes like this. So
no, it's brilliant, man. We'll have you back for sure. Do you want to, so syntheticecho.com, is it?
Yep. Go there. It has everything. It has my books. It has my socials. It has my projects. It has my programs. It has everything about me. Go check it out.
Amazing. I'll link it below. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Nathan.
Thank you.